Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're working on the 1980 Ford F100 back there, and we'll be switching from the Duraspark 2 ignition and the distributor to a Summit Racing ready to run distributor here. So if you guys are having some issues with Duraspark like I am, maybe this is the solution. I don't know, we'll see. Alright everybody, before we start ripping into the truck over there, I just wanted to show you guys the distributor itself, and this is it right here. This is the Summit Racing Ready to Run distributor, so it has a built-in ignition module inside the cap here. Pretty small cap as well, so a lot smaller than like the big cap that's in there now. Mechanical and vacuum advance on it. Pretty simple wiring process. Hey guys, let me interrupt real quick and say that the wiring part of that is wrong. I will correct it later in the video, but here's a reference that I found to be correct. I just roughly drew this. All you need is your 12-volt keyed to the positive, the red wire from the distributor to the positive, orange wire from the distributor to the negative on the coil, and then the black wire from the distributor to a ground. And now it fires up just fine. Just wanted to correct that before you guys get too far into wiring it yourself. This is the correct way to do it. Here's the part number for it. I also bought the Summit Racing coil. There's the part number to that. And I did that because you need a coil with at least a 0.7 resistance on it. So they specify that their coil is good. I'm sure the cheap coil I have on there now would work, but for 30 bucks I wanted to make sure I was good. You also get a cap for the distributor. You get weights and springs so you can adjust it. The pigtail so you can extend and go to whatever you need to go to. And I actually went ahead and swapped the blue springs out for the lighter silver springs. So I've done this in a Chevy before. I found that it helps with the responsiveness of the engine. You don't have to do that. It should run totally fine out of the box. But let me go open up the truck there, see what we have going on. All right, here's the engine we're working on. Ford 302. Pretty straightforward stuff. Here's the current ignition module, Duraspark 2. And that's the original. I've actually replaced it once, but the replacement actually seemed worse than the original. And I don't know how well you can see that, but it's leaked out all of its goo and stuff. It honestly has never failed. It's always started, it's always ran down the road, no issues there. What seems to happen, and it seems to be common with these, is the warmer the engine gets, and under the engine, the hood here, as that thing gets hot, it seems like it's losing spark and it's not running smooth. So I'm hoping to kind of alleviate that with this new distributor. The distributor itself also might be the issue here. It's kind of hard to see, but it is the style where there's the upper cap and then the lower portion of the distributor here. And there's a lot of play in it, as you can see there. So I think that's an issue as well. I think the timing's kind of jumping around on it. So hopefully this will smooth everything up. I've also solved the issue already, but this distributor was completely frozen up. You could not rotate it whatsoever when I first got the truck. It took me probably 2 months of spraying it and wiggling it back and forth, and eventually I popped the carburetor off here, had the whole thing off, and I took a big wrench onto it, and that's the only way I was able to get that thing to budge free. But now it should pop out. Should be able to swap it pretty straightforward. Here's the coil I have. It's like $10 on Amazon, so I wanted to spend the extra money and swap it out to a little bit of a better one. But right now what we need to do is find a 12 volt, and we also need to find a negative and a ground that we can go to, either like to the back of the head back there, or I know there's a ground down here on the engine. So I'm going to go over everything and come back to you guys when I figure out where we're getting that stuff from. Okay, so I have removed the old coil, got my power and ground ready to go. I also left my tack on the ground wire. That should still work just fine. The distributor is ready to be pulled out, and I made note, this is pointing pretty close to number 1, and I made a mark over here on the valve cover for where number 1 should be when I orientate the new distributor. Now, one thing I have to pay attention to is as this pulls out, it's going to rotate this, and there's also the oil pump drive on the bottom of the distributor here. As you can see, that gear is angled, so it rotates as it goes in and out. So you might not be able to see, but it goes onto that oil shaft. It's actually different than a Chevy. This is the first Ford one I've done. So the Chevy kind of has a slot that looks like a hex almost. Interesting. Anyways, but have to pay attention to that. So I'm gonna set the camera up and pull it out, and hopefully it all goes well. All right, hopefully you guys can see what's going on here. But I had to actually pry up on it just a little bit right here to loosen it up. But she's ready to come out. As you can see, that rotated as it went around. So it should pull right out. Getting caught on the fuel line here. And this over there. There it is. Distributor's out. Alright, so I always like comparing old with the new here, but obviously this is the original. It's pretty similar. I kind of can match these up. That should work just fine. This is ever so slightly longer. Hopefully that won't be an issue. The gear looks right. Steel gear, so there shouldn't be any issues there. I guess if I had to, I could pop this roll pin out and swap the gears over, and that could save me there. I believe that's the same size. Yeah, just about. Surprisingly, there's no O-ring on this. I thought these all had O-ring seals, but I guess I'm wrong. Came out pretty much as I expected. Not much of a fight there. Same setup for the oil pump drive. Should go right in. I'm going to orientate everything on the new one right, and then we'll drop it in. Alright, out with the old, in with the new. I put some oil on the gear there. Let's see how this thing rotates, because it's backwards. I'm used to Chevys. Seems to fit alright. Okay, so it rotates that way. So, move this about right here. Let's see how that goes in. How's that? Is that good? Heck yeah, that's good. She's in there all the way. Nice. And that's pointed pretty much exactly where it was. And on Fords, distributor rotates counterclockwise. So it's coming to number one. So let's transfer these plugs over, the cap, get everything locked down, everything wired up, see how it goes. Hey everybody, next morning here. So last night I struggled with getting this thing to start, and I didn't record it when I finally got it started, but I figured out I actually had some wiring wrong on here. I misunderstood the directions on there, so I kind of took my crayons out and made a simple drawing here if you guys want to reference this if you're working on it. But originally what I had was the power and the ground from the original coil hooked up. And then I also had the orange wire to the negative on the coil here. So I had two wires on the negative, which was wrong. It was basically screwing up the distributor. It wasn't running right. What you need to do is just have one wire to the negative on the coil there, and then you have your 12 volt keyed still to the positive, and you have your red wire from the distributor to the positive on the coil, and then your black wire from the distributor to a ground. And now it starts. There's another issue that I'll go over with you guys. It's either one tooth off, or I'm gonna have to move these distributor caps over, or these plug wires over, because there's not enough timing. I'm out of adjustment here. But I will try to fire it up, show you guys that it actually does work, and then we'll figure that out next. Okay, so this should fire up, but it's not going to idle very well at all. I just want to show you guys that it does fire. Alright, so obviously the timing's off. I stuck a light on it. I don't even see my timing marks on the distributor yet, or on the balancer yet. So I think that it is too retarded, so it has to be advanced. So I'm going to, I'm out of adjustment on the cap, like I said. So I'm going to move all of the wires over one. That should give me some more advancement out of this. Alright, awesome. It actually idled there. Pretty good. Let me stick a light on this, see where the timing's at, see if we can get it dialed in a little bit. I also don't have the vacuum advance hooked up at all yet, so still a lot of adjustment left here. Let's see if we can figure it out. That's 10 degrees. 4. There's about 12 degrees before. At about 32 is where the total's at right now. Dialing really good. Audibly smoother already. Before there was a miss. Maybe I can find an old video of it with the old distributor, but definitely smoother. Alright, I'm gonna let it idle for a minute, and then we'll make some more adjustments and hook up the vacuum advance on this distributor and see how it likes that. Alright, I am officially done with the wiring. Everything's cleaned up the way that I would like it to be. I'm gonna take a trip around the block, bring you guys with me, and we'll just make sure it's running right. I have the power routed through here, over to there. Everything's still plugged in there. This is my tack wire. That goes to the negative on the coil if you guys have tack stuff. Ground goes over to here. The battery cable's grounded to this bracket, so that works. And idles around like 800 or so and drops down to around 600, 500 when it's in drive. A little bit more than I'd like, but I can adjust the fueling later on. Hopefully that will solve that issue. Timing is around like 10 or 11 degrees before the vacuum advance. After the vacuum advance, it adds the 5 or 7 degrees into it. And I adjusted the idle after I did that. Total timing's around like 32, 34. On cruise, the total time is going to be more because of the vacuum advance, but there's really no way for me to test that here. Yeah, I'm going to drive it around and we'll just make sure everything checks out right. All right, in the truck now, ready to go. I'll show you guys how it starts up. Pretty easy. Just one quick little turn of the key. Seems to be responsive enough. Here's that little tack I was telling you about. If you guys can see it, we're around like, maybe like 850 or so. Dropping in reverse goes around like 500, 600. I can probably add a little bit more timing into it, but as it warms up, it might come up a little bit higher. But definitely more responsive. No pinging or anything, so that's good. Yeah, definitely more responsive. Idle's way better. Before there was a chop, when you came to a stop and you're at low idle, it had a miss. And I was always worried that it was going to die, just sitting at a stoplight or something. It never did, but it wasn't a smooth idle. And it still isn't perfect. This is a 1980, so it's an old truck with an old engine. But I'm definitely happy with it. Trying to listen for pinging. I don't hear any. Seems totally fine to me. Comes down just fine, no stuttering. I don't want to knock on the Duraspark too much because it worked for a you know, almost 50-year-old ignition system. That thing worked great. Now the true test is going to be how long does this ready to run distributor last? Is it sensitive to heat? I'm not sure. Is it sensitive to just driving around a lot? I'm not too sure. We'll have to find out in the future, and if it fails, I'll definitely post a video about it. I'm not sponsored or anything like that, so. All right, we're back. Wasn't too hard of a process installing that thing. As long as your guys' distributor is on stuck, I could see that probably being the biggest issue. It took me a little bit longer than I'd like, just because I had that wiring wrong at first, and I had to switch around those plug wires. Other than that, once I figured out that last little wiring bit and the plug wire situation, it was just adjusting the idle and adjusting the timing on the distributor itself, which you're going to have to do if you swap a distributor. Make sure you have a timing light. It doesn't matter which one, as long as it tells you what's going on. I like the ones where it just tells you the actual number, not where you have to dial it in or out. It just tells you what's actually going on. Yeah, I think that's it. Like I said, I'll post if this thing fails, if this thing sucks. Right now it's good. Idle's better, runs smoother, comes up to speed, more responsive. So as of right now, it's good. Appreciate you guys watching. See you in the next one.